Alrighty, so the Cascadia Derby have just finished 15 minutes ago as I had to put some of the notes that I wrote down on the noteboard onto the board here. But this is also going to be a bit of a long night for me tonight because after I finish reviewing these 5 games, I have to do the preview, or at least the first part of the preview for the midweek games, because tomorrow there is going to be an MLS game that is going to be happening, and that means I have to do a preview tonight, or else I'll probably won't have enough time tomorrow to do a preview for that Monday game and also the 5 Tuesday game that is going to be happening for the midweek game action. And especially tomorrow will be kind of the first official day where I am actually back in terms of the fall semester, and I have to once again deal with these annoying Zoom kind of online class session that pretty much everybody has to deal with nowadays. But that being said, let's take a look at these 5 games, and I'll tell you what, this was much better in terms of what we saw in these 5 games compared to what happened in the Thursday and Friday's game. And I guess maybe things kind of got a little bit better, mainly because all 5 of these games were kind of like rivalry game, and that seemed like whenever there's a rivalry game, both of these teams would tend to play with much more kind of just much more kind of energy than what we saw in those non-rivalry game back on Thursday and Friday. And we also saw some surprising result in this week action, which kind of just leads me into the first game that I'm going to talk about, which is El Tráfico. And for the first time ever, we saw a shutout in El Tráfico, and it's definitely not the shutout that you thought that it was going to happen, where whenever if there was going to be a shutout happen in El Tráfico, you would think that LAFC most likely is going to be the one, with them able to score a bunch of goals against a Galaxy team that basically has no attack. But instead, it was the opposite. It was the Galaxy that were able to shut out LAFC to grab their first ever clean sheet in this El Tráfico, and I'm pretty sure nobody saw this one coming, especially the fact that I said in the preview, I thought this was probably the most lopsided El Tráfico coming into this game, considering the fact that, you know, as I mentioned before with the Galaxy, they have a USL level kind of attack with them without Chicharito, and that they also, for a majority part of this game, did not have Jonathan Dos Santos until in the latter moments of this game when he came off the bench. And for LAFC, you know, even though they did not have Atuesta in this game, which kind of maybe is one of the reasons why they weren't playing as well as they used to, this is still a team that basically scored the most goal in the MLS's back tournament, and this is pretty much the same team that have that same attacking force with the likes of Rossi and Blessing, and also now getting Vela back in this team. You would think they would at least score 1 goal against a Galaxy defense that is probably one of the leakiest defense in the league. But yet, the Galaxy in this game, you know, not only the fact that they shocked everybody, but the way that they play in this game, this was a perfect game for them. And for Guillermo Barros Scaleto, whatever his tactical standpoints coming out of into this game, he absolutely out tactics Bob Bradley in this game, and it was just a tactical masterpiece that he put in this game. Now, in the first 20 minutes, it was a bit of a cagey start between both of these teams, but I have a feeling the reason why it kind of was a little bit cagey is because of the fact that it was very hot, and this was actually the only day games out of all the games from this week. But it was kind of a cagey start, which is something we usually don't get from El Tráfico game, where usually in the El Tráfico game from beginning to end, it just gets non-stop kind of goals and just crazy action happen in the game. Then in the 25th minute, Zubek would score his first ever MLS goal from Orejo and Pavone, and that was the first shot that the Galaxy had at that moment, and it went into the back of the net. Now, for the majority rest of the first half, I thought LAFC looked very slow, while the Galaxy was having a lot of success in terms of playing over the top. Again, this was a tactical masterpiece with Scaleto knowing the fact that most likely LAFC is just going to press them. So you know what we could do in terms of trying to get past their press? Why don't we just play it over their press and see if we can have some success on the attacking end? And they definitely did that. Like, LAFC just had no answer in terms sort of trying to stop the Galaxy whenever they go on the transition or when they try to play those ball over the top. And LAFC looking slow coming out of the gate. This is not something that we have not seen before, where you look at all these MLS's back tournament game that LAFC has. Most of them, they always tends to come out of the gate slow, but you would think eventually in the second half things are going to turn around. And if you just saw that 6-2 resort back in that MLS's back tournament game, you think LAFC would eventually turn it up. And they kind of looked like it for the first couple of minutes of the second half, where they were really pushing the pressure, and that it was a matter of time the Galaxy was going to concede that goal. But instead, in the 54th minute, Leggett would score from Arejo and Pavone, and that was just completely against the run of play. And to make matters worse for LAFC, Carlos Vela had to be subbed off in this game after he kind of hobbled with a knee injury, and I'm pretty sure every LAFC fans are holding their breath and hope that Vela is okay in that moment. And then in the 64th minute, it probably should have been 3-0 for the Galaxy when Zubak could have tapped it in from 3 yards out to give the Galaxy a 3-0 lead. While LAFC, for the remaining part of the game, they were really playing a high line, which, knowing the fact that they need to score goals, they had to play a high line. But at the same time, the Galaxy was happy that they, of course, are sitting back, and in some way, they're happy the fact that LAFC is playing a high line. Because if they can, of course, get on the transition for LAFC, they know that there's going to be a lot of gaps at the back. And they almost made it 3-0 again when Vermeer would rob Leggett of scoring potentially his second goal and the third goal for the Galaxy. But it didn't really matter in the end, as the Galaxy shocked everybody in this El Tráfico game by grabbing an unlikely 2-0 victory against LAFC on the road. And in terms of shots in this game, both teams had 10 shots in this game, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that LAFC had, 3 shots off target compared to 6 that LAFC had. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Galaxy had. But the Galaxy grabbing their first victory of the season, and probably this is the best I have seen the Galaxy play by far throughout the season, and probably in a very long time too. But now the question is, can they keep this up? Can they always have these kind of performance where they can look sharp? And is this just them being really up for this game, and that's why they play very well, or the fact that can they continue this kind of form? And as for LAFC, they just simply didn't show up in this game. And again, the Atuesta injury, I think that kind of played a little part of the fact that they didn't miss his presence in the midfield. But in some way, that attack, and Rossi in this game, he was barely mentioned throughout this game. And I'll give a pass to Vela, knowing the fact that this is his first game in 6 months, and that he eventually did subbed off with an injury. But yeah, overall, it was a very frustrating day if you're an LAFC fan. And hopefully for Bob Bradley, this is just kind of a one-off kind of situation, and that they can quickly bounce back in the next game. But this also kind of just shows that LAFC still clearly had this problem with a big game kind of mentality. And people make fun of LAFC, saying that when the game really matters and when it's a really big game, they always tends to choke and become kind of like a choke artist. But in some sense, it's kind of true. I mean, this was a winnable game for them, and probably out of all the El Tráfico that I know of, this is probably the one that LAFC clearly should have won this one, but it's just not meant to be, and instead the Galaxy absolutely surprised everybody with a victory in this one. But moving on, in terms of the next match, boy oh boy, Atlanta needed this one badly. I mean, after what happened in the MLS's back tournament, where by far they were the most disappointing team in that tournament, they grabbed a huge 2-0 victory against Nashville SC. And remember how I said back in the preview, and pretty much it's something that I've said many times before with Atlanta. If Atlanta wants to get back to winning ways, and if they want to have that goal-scoring threat without Joseph Martinez on their team, Pity Martinez has to step up. And guess what happened in this game? Pity Martinez actually did step up, and he was the reason why Atlanta won this one. Now, early in the game, Atlanta really kind of picked off where they left off in the tournament, where they were looking very slow on the attack, and there was just they kind of look like they were out of ideas whenever they get into the final third. But Brooks Lennon did had a big chance to score the opening goal, but he wasn't able to put it away. Nashville was also getting a lot of set piece opportunity in this game, but they just couldn't do anything with those set piece opportunity. And this is also one of the biggest issue why Nashville is struggling in terms of scoring goal. Because if you're a team that you know they are not going to be a team to break teams down to score goals, and that they are really heavily reliant on those set piece opportunity. Well, if you don't score your set piece opportunity, or at least create some good chances from the set piece opportunity, it's no wonder why Nashville is having a really tough time in terms of finding the ball into the back of the net, and that they just cannot buy a goal right now with the way that their attack is going. Now, in the 39th minute, Pity Martinez would score from Eric Remedi, and this goal that Pity Martinez scored pretty much is a reminiscent of why he is the former South American Player of the Year, with him just completely dance around that Nashville defense and able to put away to give Atlanta a 1-0 lead. Although in the second half, Atlanta kind of decided to elect to sit back against Nashville, who continue to just struggle in terms of not only breaking down this Atlanta defense, but really creating any attacking threat whatsoever. And then in the 87th minute, Pity Martinez basically just called it a game for Nashville, as he would score again from Adams and Cubo Torres. Cubo Torres actually late in the game had a glorious opportunity to get his first ever goal for Atlanta late in this one, but he just put that shot over the bar. But didn't matter in the end, because Atlanta would grab a crucial 2-0 win against Nashville in this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, Nashville actually outshot Atlanta in this game and had 15 shots compared to 6 that Atlanta has. 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that Atlanta has. 7 shots off target compared to 1 that Atlanta has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Nashville has. But don't let that stat line fool you. The fact that most of those chances that Nashville has was very weak kind of effort that Brett Guzan didn't really have a lot of trouble with. And again, for Atlanta, they picked their moment in this game, and especially finally they were able to get a good performance from Pity Martinez, who I really think this has got to be the guy alongside with Barco is the one that's going to have to carry them now that they're not going to have Joseph Martinez for the rest of the season. And let's see if that is going to be continue for Atlanta for future game. While for Nashville, their goal scoring woes just continues, and that, I see potential that this Nashville team could be a decent MLS team, but the only missing ingredient in this team is just the goals. I know I said it many times before, and I'm going to say it again. If you're a team that aren't able to score goals, it doesn't matter how good you are in the midfield and in the defensive area. You're not going to win a lot of games if you're going to have a problem in terms of scoring goals. But moving on, in terms of the next match, they did it. They finally did it after 5 months of waiting. Inter Miami has finally got their first ever MLS win in their club history, and what a way to do it in their first ever home game and against their hated rival Orlando City in what I would say the first regular season Florida derby. I mean, I know that they had a Florida derby in the MLS's back tournament, but that was not the regular season, even though technically I think that game did kind of count in the regular season. By the way, you get the whole gesture, that the fact that Inter Miami makes some history in this game by getting a 3-2 win against Orlando City. And this one was actually a very entertaining game. And that entertainment actually started early in the 10th minute when Carranza would score a historic goal for Inter Miami from Pizarro, as that's the first ever home goal that Inter Miami has scored in this game to go up 1-0. And I thought Miami looked very good in the beginning and well-deservedly up 1-0 early in this game. But then Orlando City would get an equalizer in the 18th minute, and it would be DK who scored his first ever MLS career goal in this game to tie the game up. And that really kind of turned the game a little bit, where early on it was Inter Miami kind of dominating the game a little bit, but Orlando City kind of started to find that rhythm a little bit, and I was very concerned that Miami was not going to have a chance to potentially get that second goal. boy, I was wrong 5 minutes later, because Carenza would score again from Ben Sweat. What a delivery this was from Ben Sweat, and even a better finish from Julian Carenza, which is something that this was something that Inter Miami was hoping to see from one of their makeshift goals scored to able to banging the goals. And at that point, it was 2-1 in favor of Miami. And really, after that goal, that momentum kind of shift right back to Miami. And that Orlando, for the rest of the first half, they just looked like they were very disjointed on the attack. And that this attack that I saw Orlando City play in the first half looks nothing like the beautiful soccer that Oscar Pereira has implemented in this team in the MLS's back tournament. And I guess maybe a lot of that has to do with them having played a final in 11 days and obviously losing probably their biggest game in franchise history. There was going to be a big letdown heading into this one, and we definitely saw that letdown in the first half. Now, in the second half, Miami would make it 3-1, and it would be Pizarro who scored another goal for Miami to make it 3-1 at that point, although he could have had 2 goals in this game just 2 minutes later when Pizarro almost made it 4-1, but fortunately he hits the post. And if that one went in, that could have definitely in contention for goal of the week, because that was a beautiful goal, or that could have been a beautiful goal that Pizarro would have scored, and that if that game or if that at that moment would have been 4-1 in favor of Inter Miami, this game was clearly over. But Orlando really kind of started to woke up in the 65th minute and realized that they better kind of get things going if they don't want to hand Inter Miami their first ever win in MLS history. And the 80th minute, Nani scores from Mueller and DK. What a game DK had in this one. Not only getting his first goal in his career, but also getting on the helper sheet. But it was kind of a little bit too late for Orlando City, because despite the fact that they were really pushing for the equalizer, and I'm pretty sure for the last 5 minutes must be the longest 5 minutes that Inter Miami fans had to endure in their life, but they were able to survive the rush that Orlando put on them for the last 5 minutes, and they, as a result, it's a historic moment for this expansion team by getting their first ever victory in MLS. Shots in this game, 11 shots compared to 12 that Orlando City has. 4 shots on goal compared to 5 that Orlando City has. 2 shots off target compared to 1 that Orlando City has. 5 shots out blocked compared to 6 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 35% possession compared to 65% possession. And, with this first ever win for Inter Miami, let's see now if they can continue that momentum against Atlanta in the next game. And that, when you finally can get over the hump and finally get that crucial 3 points off your back, that not only must feel very good for Inter Miami, but now I feel like maybe that pressure is a little bit off on them, knowing the fact that they must be tired of hearing the fact that they still have not got a win, and that they're the only team in the league to not pick up any points from their first couple of regular season games. But now they of course do it. Let's see how they can of course continue for these rest of the game, and whether if they can pick up a couple of victory in a row to get themselves a little bit higher in the Eastern Conference. Well, for Orlando City, this just wasn't meant to be for them, and I guess it's back to the drawing board for Oscar Pereira team, and looking to trying to recapture that good run that they had in the MLS's back tournament in the next game. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Rocky Mountain Cup. And yeah, just like previous trend in the Rocky Mountain Cup, it was RSL, the one that once again was able to capture victory in this so-called rivalry. And the reason why I say this is a so-called rivalry is I'm pretty sure not a lot of fans from Colorado or RSL really kind of hate each other. And it doesn't help the fact that this has just been such a one-sided rivalry, with RSL basically winning, I think, the last 4 Rocky Mountain Cup, and they basically made it 5 in a row by winning 4-1 against Colorado. Although it was the Rapids in the first 15 minutes of the game that actually had a couple of decent chances to get the opening goal, although Yarbrough did had to rob Justin Merriam, as things kind of got a little bit end-to-end between the 15-minute to the 20-minute mark. The Rapids eventually did get the opening goal, and it was actually an own goal by Herrera. And originally, I thought when Diego Rubio was was basically dribbling into the box. I thought he kind of overplayed a little bit in that he probably should have shot it right away before he kind of run out of real estate and had to cut it back. But as he cuts back that pass, Herrera unfortunately slots it into his own net. This is, of course, something that you usually see happens with center backs when they're trying to clear the ball away, but sometimes they do get it wrong. That is exactly what happens, and that it's unfortunate that Herrera kind of got that one wrong and puts it into his own net. But I thought at that point Colorado deserved the lead with the way that they played very well in the first half. However, in the second half, it was kind of a little bit of a flip switch in terms of what happened in the second half, and it was RSL the one that looked like they were a team that potentially are going to get the 3 points. And they had a couple of chances in the first 10 minutes of the second half, but eventually they did get the equalizer. And what an equalizer this is from Demar Krylak, who scored an absolute banger from Justin Miram. This, I could have wrote goal of the week with a question mark, but after what we saw with Nakbi goal and also the Piatti goal from Tuesday, I have a feeling most likely this one, even if it was in contention for goal of the week, maybe it's not going to win, because again, that Nakbi goal from not yesterday, but from Thursday, that was probably one, if not the best goal we have ever seen in MLS, and it's going to be very hard to try to say that goal is going to be the one that might not win goal of the week from this week. And then just 18 minutes later, Chang would score his first MLS goal, although he kind of would want to thank William Yarbrough in this instant, because Yarbrough, as he was trying to come off his lines to kind of smother that ball onto the ground, he basically completely fumbled that smother, and then it just goes right into Chang's feet, which he easily tapped it into the empty net. And just like that, RSL have just completely turned the game on its head. Although Colorado did look like they had a quick response when Shinyashiki almost equalized instantly with a header that unfortunately was just put wide. Then Namni would be denied of a post and almost score kind of a Demar Krylak-esque goal, but unfortunately that shot, of course, was hit off the post. Then in the 85th minute, Corey Bear would score from Chang to make it 3-1 in favor of RSL. They would add another one late in this game in the 89th minute from Maram, Chung, and Bear. And I'll tell you what, Freddy Juarez, in terms of his substitution, he absolutely got it spot on tonight, because both Chang and Miram was substitute coming off the bench for RSL in this game, and both of them were able to get on the score sheet and also get on the helpers sheet too, as RSL with a big victory against the Colorado Rapids in this game. And the shots in this game, 15 shots compared to 10 that RSL had, 2 shots on goal compared to 8 that RSL has, 7 shots off target compared to 1 that RSL had, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that RSL had, and possession-wise, 41% possession compared to 59% possession that RSL had. And that, I think, at the end of the day, this is kind of a classic game of the fact that one team was able to take advantage of their chances when they have it, and the other weren't able to do that. And in this case, Colorado, unfortunately, are the one that, despite the fact that they had their chances in the first half to get more than the one goal that they had, they weren't able to capitalize that, and RSL was just so clinical in the second half by scoring 4 second half goals to basically just completely blow this Rocky Mountain Cup out of the door. But that being said, moving on into the final game of this review is the Cascadia Derby between the Portland Timbers versus the Seattle Sounders. And at least for the first 65 minutes, I don't think anybody thought this was going to be a 3-0 result for the Seattle Sounders. And that this game probably could have been a whole lot different than what we probably would have saw in the 5th minute in this game, when Duvall looked like he scored an absolute screamer and scored his first goal in 3 years to give the Portland Timbers a 1-0 lead. But unfortunately, it was disallowed for offside, and the offside call wasn't actually on Duvall, but it was actually on Williamson when the free kick was delivered into the box for Seattle basically clear the ball right to Duvall that hits that screamer. Williamson, unfortunately, was in an offside position, and that VAR basically overruled that goal. And it's a shame, the fact that that goal, of course, was overruled, because that would have been another goal that could have been in contention for goal of the weekend. That would have been a great start in terms of this Cascadia derby. But unfortunately, despite the fact that we kind of got that great start to the Cascadia derby, or shall I say almost great start to the Cascadia derby, for the rest of the first half, it was really sloppy from both of the team. And really, the best chance came right on the stroke of halftime, when Valeri probably could have given the Timbers a 1-0 lead when he missed a sitter from 10 yards out. But either way, both teams looked like they were very conservative in the first half and didn't really want to take a lot of risks in the first half. And we had to have time in this Cascadia derby at 0-0. Now, in the second half, the Timbers really were pushing for that opening goal. Ibobasi had a header that unfortunately he heads it wide to basically keep this one at 0-0. Then Stefan Fry would deny Luria a shot off the post, although that shot was kind of like in a tight angle, and Fry was always going to make that save, although he kind of had to push that one off the post in order to save that one. And we remain at 0-0 in this game, though you kind of had a feeling that the Timbers were eventually going to get that goal, and especially the fact that the Sounders were still struggling to try to come out of that second gear and really get into this game. It was a matter of time that the Timbers was going to get the opening goal. But as I said back in that El Tráfico game, where you expect something is going to happen with the flow of the play, all of a sudden a weird kind of thing happened, and that the opposition was just able to score a goal kind of against the run of play. And in this sense, it was Ruidíaz, the one that scored this goal against the run of plays from Jones and Ladero. This one was kind of a weird one, because I thought this probably could have been an own goal for Steve Clark, because when this shot was hit from Ruidíaz, it actually came off the post, and as it was bounced off the post, unfortunately, it kind of ricocheted right off of Clark's chest. And if that, of course, is the case, then wouldn't that be an own goal for Steve Clark? Like, that shot was not on target, even though the fact that it hits off the post. But either way, I don't think Ruidíaz or the Seattle Sounders would care. They, of course, got an unlikely opener in that moment. Then Stefan Fry would rob Blanco for the equalizer for the Portland Timbers. As the game kind of started to become open and really kind of started to become end-to-end, which was kind of expected with the way that I feel like with how slow and sloppy this game was. If there was one goal that was scored in this one, this game would actually open up, and it definitely did after the opening goal of this one. But then in the 84th minute, Ruidíaz would score again to make it 2-0 in favor of the Sounders, and this was a shocking mistake from Mabiola, who not only he missed clear that ball away, but he just got completely out-muscled by Ruidíaz that easily slots it into the back of the net to make it 2-0. Then, literally 90 seconds after that goal, it was Leerdam that scored from Ruidíaz and Will Bruin, and what an unselfish play that was from Ruidíaz, because Ruidíaz was sitting on a hat-trick in this game, and usually when you have a guy that is sitting on a hat-trick, especially in a derby kind of game like this, you would think he is going to be a little bit selfish in trying to take this one. But he showed his unselfish character by passing it to Leerdam, who was in a much better position to basically hit that ball into the back of the net. And he made no mistake to make it 3-0 for the Sounders, as Portland just completely capitulated. Like, I think they were absolutely shocked. Not only the fact that they conceded that goal in the 72nd minute from Ruidíaz, despite the fact that they were looking like the one that was going to get that opening goal, but it's also because of just consecutive goal that they, of course, concede, and just a game that looked like they had a chance to maybe get back into it, and then all of a sudden, with a snap of a finger, the game is pretty much all set and done. Now, they did have a chance to get a consolation goal in the 92nd minute when Mora was able to hit it in. Well, actually, he didn't hit it in, but he slashed that one into the empty net after Stefan Fry made an incredible save on Blanco's free kick. But unfortunately, the luck just not with the Portland Timbers in this game, as it was disallow again for offside. And that was the final score of this game, as the Seattle Sounders, with an emphatic 3-0 win against the Portland Timbers, and just kind of continues this trend with the Cascadia Derby being the road team, for whatever reason, are always the one that seems to win game. Like, I think the last 5 Cascadia Derby, we have seen the road team were able to get a result. Shots in this game, 12 shots compared to 10 that Seattle has, 5 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Sounders had. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Sounders had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession. And for the Sounders, you know, their next game is against the Galaxy, and I'll tell you what, that is going to be a heck of a game in terms of both of those teams coming off of big derby wins, and we shall see whether or not if both of those team, or if one of those team, are able to continue the momentum that they had in their derby win to get all 3 points in this one. Well, for the Portland Timbers, they gotta quickly forget about this one, because they have to play against the Quakes on Wednesday night, and it's actually going to be a road game for the Portland Timbers. And we know whenever the Quakes play against the Timbers, or at least for most of the time, the Quakes usually are the ones that are able to grab all 3 points in that game. Although, as a Quakes fan, I'm not going to be just stamping the fact that the Quakes are going to get 3 points against the Timbers, because I'm pretty sure the Timbers and Giovanni Savarese is not going to be happy with this result, and the fact that they're going to be very angry coming into that game against the Quakes on Wednesday and want to make sure they get 3 points in that one. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 5 games? And again, I have to do the preview for the midweek games right after this video, because tomorrow we will continue MLS action, and I believe tomorrow it's NYCFC versus Columbus. Is that correct? Let me take a look at the schedule. I believe it's NYCFC versus Columbus. Actually, do I have my phone here? Actually, I don't have my phone, but I'll quickly check on the schedule right now to see if that is the case. That tomorrow's match, if it's NYCFC versus Columbus. God, the computer's being a little bit slow tonight. Let's see. Yeah, it is NYCFC versus Columbus tomorrow. So I'm going to have to do the preview right after I finish this video, which pretty much is now. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. And yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.